Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. It's a pleasure to have you on today's webinar. And I'm delighted to be presenting again with Tirso Olazabal of MdME Lawyers on the Golden Visa. Tirso, welcome. How are you?
Thank you very much, Grant. Thank you very much for the invitation. It's also a great pleasure to be here again and joining this webinar with IP Global. And thank you also to the audience at home for taking time of yours to listen to the webinar.
It's great to see you, Tirso. And I think at the moment you're in Lisbon. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes. You can maybe the light behind me can tell you that I'm in Lisbon, and it's true. I'm in Lisbon at the moment, and I'll be back to Hong Kong soon. So I'm here at the moment in Lisbon, also with our team, our Golden Visa team here in the Lisbon office.
Fantastic. I'm very envious of you. It's such a wonderful city, Lisbon, I have to say. So but it'd be great to see you back in Hong Kong at some point.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, as I say, I'm going to be predominantly doing a Q&A with Tirso today. We've done a lot of work together in terms of the projects, showing specific project details in terms of IP Global, and also for IP investment management, where we have a fund opportunity. And Tirso has actually helped with many clients and has a depth and wealth of experience for the Golden Visa. So today is predominantly going to be a short presentation on my side, and then we're going to go into Q&A specifically with Tirso. We've had a number of questions that have come through in the lead up to this webinar, which we will cover. And no doubt there will be other questions that come up during this session. I'm also delighted to say that Tirso has very kindly offered that he would do a 15 to 20 minute free Zoom consultation for any clients who are serious with regards to the Golden Visa and would like questions answered. And as I say, I can only speak highly of him in terms of clients that he has dealt with for me over the past 12 months. So that's a very kind gesture. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's get into the first slide. So there's a lot of people on the webinar today, and I just wanted to share a little bit of background to IP Global for those who are not familiar with the business or indeed familiar with myself. So just starting on my side, I've been in the business since 2006, pretty much since we set up, almost 16 years ago now. Based here in Hong Kong as the head office, although we have offices in the Middle East, in China, in the UK and South Africa too. And we have clients from all over the globe today. We've transacted 5,500 properties during that time. And we've invested in over 20 markets. We've also transacted on over $3 billion of property investment. So we have a tremendous experience of property investing around the globe. This year, we are focusing on the UK, Germany, and Portugal as main markets. And obviously, Portugal is very apt tonight as we discuss the Golden Visa opportunity. So let's get into the next slide. So this is obviously from Tirso's side. So MdME Lawyers is effectively where Tirso is a very experienced partner. I know he's been in the business for quite a number of years from here in Hong Kong. Actually, MdME is the only law firm in Hong Kong that provides a one-stop shop for Portuguese Golden Visa applications, and they have tremendous experience in that sector. They have access to English speakers, Portuguese speakers, Cantonese, and Mandarin. And they really do have a strong value-add proposition. So let actually Tirso say a few words as well about his business.
Okay, so just very briefly, I'm in charge of our private client practice, which includes the Golden Visa practice at MdME Lawyers. As Grant was just mentioning, we have offices in Lisbon where the application itself is being processed with experienced lawyers here on the ground. But we also have offices in Hong Kong and Macau, and this gave us a lot of experience, as in the very beginning, since the inception of the program in 2012, the main investors were investors from China, and due to our strategic position as well, we have and we gain a lot of experience serving those clients. Of course, nowadays, we are widely spread and we provide assistance to clients for all over the world and all types of jurisdictions.
Yeah, and I think just adding to that, Tirso, I mean, obviously we've seen a lot of applications come in from people from the UK, sort of post-Brexit, who are keen to get the EU passport, and the US, and obviously a number of other nationalities as well.
Yeah, correct. So lately we've seen a shift on the type of jurisdictions that are more interested in the Portuguese Golden Visa. And one of those jurisdictions are, without any kind of doubt, UK and US, and we have been actively working with those jurisdictions lately. Due to Brexit, of course, for the UK, and the US for other reasons, that are mostly related to taxation purposes and purely investment as well.
Yeah, but certainly we see, you know, given the appeal of the benefits for the Golden Visa, from reduced education fees, you know, healthcare, the fact that rule of law is so good, crime is low, English is spoken. I mean, you can go on and on why people see Portugal as very appealing, and of course wanting to get access to the Portuguese passport, which then gives them access to the whole of the European Union as well.
Correct. So the Portuguese program has been one of the leader programs for immigration on investment, due to the reasons that you just mentioned. For the country itself, it's a very appealing country for investment, not only for immigration purposes, but for investment purposes only as well, and also due to the features of the program that are much more flexible than other investment programs around the world. Yes,
absolutely.
Just to mention also, Grant, that the program that leads to the entitlement of applying for a Portuguese passport, just to say that the Portuguese passport is one of the most powerful in the world, is on the top 5 passports in the world that gives you access, visa-free access to more than 135 countries all around the world. So that's also...
Yeah, I think that's a very valid point, and that really does show the power of this passport. It really is a top-notch passport, as you say, in the top 5 in the world. Tirso, so it has many benefits. Let's just move on to the next slide of this short presentation. So there have been some changes, and Tirso, feel free to comment on this at all. But in essence, what we've seen is one of the big sort of benefits is the fact that from this year, you can invest in property from 280,000 euros cash in what we call designated low density areas. One of those is the Algarve, and I'm going to touch on that briefly soon. So that really does obviously open up the market for a number of our investors. There is also opportunity across the country to invest in a property, renovated property with rehabilitation works, for example, of 350,000 euros, providing that it's over 30 years old. And then aside from the physical assets, you can invest into a fund. The fund investment is 500,000 euros. Now, last year that was 350,000 euros. It's now gone up to 500,000 euros. And there's also a capital transfer to a Portuguese bank account. where you can invest 1.5 million euros. So there are a variety of options that you have across the bank accounts, the fund, and also the property side that you can make for investment. Tirso, did you have any particular comments on that at all as well?
Well, I think that you just briefed very well the changes on the law. It's a very good point. So I think this slide is very useful. Although we thought that this webinar we wanted to do it on an interactive way and more to touch on key questions regarding the golden visa. It's also important. I thought it was important to go into the detail on the changes only on the law because it's related to the investment itself, so that people at home and the audience, you have a better picture on what changed. I would say that on the property itself, it mainly changed the fact that you cannot invest in residential property in the main cities on Lisbon and Porto, but that has shifted, and we can see now that people are open to invest in other areas of the country, of course, after a due assessment on the investment. But I think that the changes also on the minimum amounts of investments on the capital transfer were not that highly increased. So 500,000, it's still very affordable when compared to other countries and other schemes, immigration schemes. So overall, I think that the changes are very decent and still very attractive.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And you've talked about it being a great passport, but also it's a great time to invest in Portugal. And obviously, the golden visa is bringing in a lot of capital across a lot of different sectors. And obviously, post-COVID, with things more normalizing in Portugal, the fact is we are seeing in various sectors of the investment community and a number of reports from Savills to Colliers, etc., a very positive investment environment, and that bodes well for those clients, whatever option that they may decide to take forward for investment for the golden visa.
Correct.
Yeah. So let's just move on. I'm just going to touch briefly on one of the opportunities that we have been discussing with clients before we get into the main part of the Q&A. So this is one of the new areas that have come up for investing. One of the what we call the lower density areas, where you can invest from 280,000 euros. So this is actually in the Algarve, on the coastline of Portugal. Down at the more the southern tip, not far from Lagos, Faro, and when I was looking into this, I didn't realise that actually after Lisbon, the Algarve region has the second strongest GDP in Portugal. It's actually ahead of Porto, so it is a very strong economic region. And I think the point we would make is, we look at what's happened to Lisbon and Porto with the golden visa over a number of years and how that's driven property prices. And we also see this happening similarly in this type of locality, but obviously we're at the very beginning. So this is quite an exciting opportunity for clients to invest at a lower level, starting from 280,000 euros with a rental guarantee fixed for 5 years. In a project that where lots of infrastructure improvements going on, and also a very multi-dimensional economy, from agriculture, obviously tourism, and starting to become a sort of more of a tech type location as well, where obviously in this sort of new world, people can effectively work from anywhere. Very popular with Germans and French and Dutch, and obviously people from the UK. And I won't sort of dwell too much on this, but certainly if you are keen to sort of receive further details, do drop me a line, and then obviously I can discuss this opportunity with you. Right, so let's get into the main thrust of the of this webinar. which is the Q&A section. And as I say, we've had a lot of questions come through, which we won't be able to answer all of them. But, you know, I'm going to sort of pick out the main ones that we've received and have been receiving during the webinar. So, Tirso, if I start with the first question here, the first question we have is, someone has contacted us to say, after investing, will we get citizenship with passport or just residency? Okay, so that's a good question, and let's say that when you invest, so when you do your golden visa investment, you get you get a temporary residency, okay? And after 5 years of holding that investment, of holding the golden visa, you are entitled to apply for citizenship or permanent residency, okay? So 2 stages. First, investment, you get your golden visa. Golden visa, hold it for 5 years. And after 5 years, you are entitled to start your application for either citizenship or permanent residency. Right, okay. And just briefly on the golden visa, so the client invests, they you then file the application. So when they get the golden visa come through, which I assume takes a number of months, does that then give them access to live and work in Portugal? Yeah, sure. Yeah. So once you have your golden visa, as I was mentioning, is a temporary residency that can be turned into a permanent residency or a passport. But while you hold the golden visa throughout the 5 years, you are entitled to live and work in Portugal and to freely travel within the Schengen area. Okay, that's the entitlements that you have in terms of living and circulation. Right. Okay. Okay. Next question. Please advise what the funding options would be for first-time buyers. Is it possible to get mortgages for golden visa properties abroad? Okay. So it is possible, but the minimum amount of investment cannot be under a mortgage. So we have to say that only the exceeding portion of the minimum amount of investment can be covered by a mortgage. To give you an example, imagine that the investor is taking the option of buying a 500,000 property investment. If the property cost is 750,000, the 500,000 euros cannot be under the mortgage, and only the exceeding part, 250,000, they can apply for a mortgage. Okay, so there is like a certain protection on the minimum amount of investment that must be always and at all times clean of any encumbrance and charges, but the exceeding part, they can apply for a mortgage in the bank. Right. Local bank. Okay. I've got a question here that's actually just come in, which I think is one that would be good to answer as well. So, can a golden visa be applied for from within any geography or country outside of the EU Portugal? So if you're not in Hong Kong, can applications be actioned, for example, if you are currently in the UK? Sure. So let me just briefly explain you how the application goes, okay? The response is yes. What happens is that the investor can make his investment remotely without coming to Portugal. So he just performs the investment. We will collect all the personal documents that need to be collected and also open the bank account and everything. Once we have all the documentation in place and the investment is completed, we will file the application through the online system of the immigration in Portugal. Okay, so that can be done from any part of the world. Okay, once the online application is accepted, then the client will be in a position to book his biometric meeting with the Portuguese authorities. And that's the only moment where the client really needs to come to Portugal. Okay, so
to start the application and to file the application and to work on the application and even to do the investment, the client can do it from any part of the world without any need whatsoever to come to Portugal or so.
Right. Okay, that's very helpful, and that will certainly assist with a number of inquiries that we've seen in relation to that particular question. Okay, next question. After issuance of the pink card, do we need to stay in Portugal for at least 14 days for the first 2 years? How is the 14 days counted? Day of arrival and can day of departure be counted, or do you need sort of a full 14 days?
Okay, so first of all, let me just say that the pink card is what commonly known as the golden visa card, which is just like an ID. Okay. Maybe there's some people that are not familiar with the concept of pink card. The pink card is a golden visa. And yes, so there is a minimum period of stay while you have your pink card, your golden visa. There's a minimum period of stay in Portugal, which is 14 days every 2 years. Okay, so you will need to renew your golden visa after 2 years on the 2nd year, and after 2 years on the 4th year. And if you want to keep it, then on the 6th year. And within those 2 years before the renewal, you will need to stay in Portugal for 14 days. It doesn't matter if you stay 1 day on the 1st year and 13 days on the 2nd year, or you only come to Portugal 14 days on the 1st year or on the 2nd year. It doesn't matter. For the full period of the 2 years, you need to remain in Portugal for 14 days. These 14 days are 14 full days, okay? So effectively 24 hours, so that you don't have any type of contingency while renewing your golden visa with the immigration authorities. So the response on how to count the 14 days is that those 14 days will have to be full days, so 24 hours in Portugal, okay? And on this regard, let me tell you that one of the most attractive features of the golden visa program in Portugal is effectively the reduced minimum period of stay while compared to other programs. So yeah.
Yeah, okay. And just another sort of live question here. With the golden visa, what is the maximum length of stay in other EU countries? Is it 90 days or more? Yes. So this will always depend also on the country itself. Okay. So it will need to be assessed on the country that he is entering with the golden visa. Okay. So normally you will stay a maximum period of stay of 180 days. Okay, in other countries. Okay. Okay. Right. There's a question here. What kind of documents are needed to prove dependency for our children other than birth certificate? Is the proof needed when the pink card is due for renewal after 2 years? Okay, the dependency, we have here 2 types of dependency, okay, when we speak about children. So let's say the physical dependency of being the father of the children, and that is proved by showing the birth certificate, okay? You don't need to show the birth certificate when you renew the golden visa, because okay, you are still the father of that children. If you are the father once, you're probably the father forever. But there is also another sort of dependency that needs to be assessed with this. It's the financial dependency in case the children are overage. Okay, if the children are more than 80 years old, they will have to show the physical dependency, so that he is the son of the investor, so showing the birth certificate, plus
financial dependency. Financial dependency is usually and must be evidenced by showing that the children is studying. So it's still studying. So this will be a document from the school or from the university showing that he is still studying. And that is enough to show that dependency in case he is over 18 years old.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's all very clear. Okay, next one, probably not one to answer, but one we can follow up. Can you send a map of exactly which areas are included and excluded for the golden visa?
Okay. Yeah, so we have that map, okay? We have it in our golden visa ebook that we just produced, and also on our credentials. We are happy to share that with anyone that is interested on knowing those areas specifically. What I can just say is that mainly the restricted areas for residential properties are mainly the region of Lisbon, the region of Porto, and some coastal areas next to, just close to the ocean.
Yeah.
But
okay,
this is something that we can send through. Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, well, certainly with our attendees who require that, of course, we can get that information for them. Thank you for that, Tirso. There's one here just come in. Why would someone choose permanent residency over citizenship?
Okay, so the main reason for that is that some countries would not allow someone to have dual citizenship. Okay, if that is the case, and that person does not want to withdraw or lose his original passport from his country of origin, then he will opt to do the permanent residency rather than the citizenship. Okay, I would say that this is the main reason that would lead someone to take that decision and not the other.
Yeah, okay, that's clear. Before investing, do we need to visit the location?
Not at all. So as I just mentioned before, the application can be filed, and you can do the application without even coming to Portugal. And to do the application, you need to complete your investment. So you can do your investment without coming to Portugal. This is purely a commercial decision of the investor. If he wants to come and check the property or whatever option he's taking as an investment, he can do it, but it is not mandatory at all.
Okay, okay, fine. In terms of how long the procedure takes, I think that's referring to, for example, the golden visa. So we're obviously covering the fact that typically we're talking about a 5 years to get the permanent residency or passport, but to get the initial golden visa from, if a client was investing today, and then obviously you would file the application for the golden visa, when would they expect to then be confirmed that they will get the golden visa and obviously fly to Portugal to do the biometrics, etc.?
Okay, so there is no straightforward answer or precise answer for that question. Okay, there is some certain. It depends on the investor as well, on how to gather documentation, on how long does it take to make the investment, etc., etc. But just to give you a normal case, okay, so from the moment everything is in order to submit the application, okay, so to do the online application, it normally takes 3 to 4 months for the online application to be accepted. After that moment, you can book your biometrics, okay? At this moment, the biometrics are being handled on a chronological order. So the investors are called from a specific order when they file his application. It can take, I would say, another 3 months for that to happen, and then another 2 months for the visa to be issued. So overall, 8 months, I would say, around that for the visa to be issued. I just want to also to be completely clear and transparent, because I think it's important for people to know that the coronavirus has affected, as all countries in the world, the golden visa in Portugal, because the immigration authorities were closed for a long period of time last year. So that has affected the process. And also lately, the war in Ukraine, one of the priorities of the immigration in Portugal was to receive Ukrainian people in Portugal and to host them in Portugal so that they could run away from the war. And that has also created a certain delay on that application that can be reflected on 8 months to 9 months time. Yes. Okay. Yeah. But of course, everything can be. There's no straightforward answer to that. But just to give you a general, idea, yeah. That's a question. The answer.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's a helpful insight in terms of the timeline, Tirso. Okay, next question. Since these sort of changes that I mentioned at the start of the webinar that have come into force this year, have you seen any particular trends? So are people more focused on property, capital investment of 1.5 million, investment into the fund? Is there a trend or not, would you say, Tirso?
Well, we have seen some adjustments. Okay, I've seen that people have been quite interested on the funds. Okay, that maybe at the very beginning they were a little bit reluctant, and that has changed a little bit, and we see that there is a big portion of clients that is now taking the fund route. That is also it's also a question that need to be seen on a case-by-case basis. You need to understand what is the ultimate goal of the investor. He really wants to move to Portugal. He just wants to have a plan B while staying in their country where they are at the moment. Then also to see the pros and cons of having a property or maybe transferring capital. When you buy a property, you need to take into consideration taxes. You need to take into consideration management fees, insurance of the property, maintaining the property. So these are ongoing and one-off costs that maybe you don't have in other types of investments like capital transfers or investment in funds. So this is something that practical issues that can lead someone to do one type of investment or the other. But since the law changed, we see that there is an increased interest on the funds, and still I was a little bit surprised on the property. It's still very strong as well on the residential ones outside Lisbon.
Yeah, and I think to the point I mentioned at the outset, I mean, regardless of what route people decide to go down, if the attendees do read any of the most recent reports from Savills and Colliers and so on, there's definitely strong investment sentiment, positive sentiment to investing in Portugal across many different asset classes, actually. So, and again, if you wanted to have any particular reports, I can provide those for you. But it certainly is, if you said, a grade A passport, and it's an opportune time to invest in Portugal, right away across a multitude of asset classes. So let's move on to the next question. Can the biometrics collection be done in a consulate, or does it need to be done in Portugal?
So this is a good question, because I would hope that it could be done in a consulate. But unfortunately, this is required to be done in Portugal. So there is no option at all to do it in a consulate outside Portugal. Okay. So the investor needs to travel to Portugal and do the biometrics in Portugal.
Okay. Another question that's just come in: any difference in benefits between PR and citizenship?
Benefits between PR and citizenship. So we are talking about different things. So I would maybe just give you 2 or 3 difference between the two, so that you can have an idea, and maybe we can go into further details if that investor wants. So the PR, so permanent residency, entails that the investor really lives in Portugal more than 183 days, okay? When you have a permanent residency and not the golden visa, please make the difference. So while you have the golden visa, you don't need to stay 183 days per year. You just need to fulfill those 14 days every 2 years. But when you apply for the permanent residency, you then want to move to Portugal and stay here and live more than 183 days per year. Unlike the passport, when you have the passport, you are not obliged to have either a minimum or maximum period of stay in Portugal. Just to give you an example, I'm a Portuguese passport holder. When I'm in Hong Kong and I'm not in Portugal, I don't need to stay, I don't need to come to Portugal to fulfill any minimum period of stay. So that's something that it's a big difference between both. And then, for example, political rights, that gives you rights to run for elections or to vote for certain elections that you cannot when you are, if you have a citizenship and you don't have a permanent residency. But I would say that the main reason or the main difference is this one. And lastly, the fact that if you have a passport, you are entitled, a EU passport, you are entitled to freely stay without any kind of restrictions and time limit in any other EU country, which is not the same as if you are holding a permanent residency. Okay, so it's much stronger document. So that's the main difference among others.
Yeah, that's very enlightening, and I'm sure that will give good food for thought across quite a number of the attendees. Okay, next question, Tirso. Can I change the property investment by another property, or can I change the type of my investment, e.g. from funds to real estate?
Okay, so it is possible to change, and 100% sure, from property to another property. So if you want to buy another property and sell the one that you are using for your golden visa, we've done it before and it's possible. Changing the type of investment is more tricky, okay? Because the law says that you need to maintain your investment activity throughout the 5 years. And if you have started with a precise activity, changing to another different one, I would say, to be 100% clear, we've never, it's not something that is very common. This will have to be discussed with the immigration authorities, okay? Changing from one type of investment to the other, so that you don't need to restart your golden visa all over again. But changing from one property to another, or one fund to another, that is possible, okay?
Sure, okay. And the next question, can I start my application using a property under construction? And if so, shall I pay up front the entire price of the property?
Okay, so yes, it is possible, okay? You can buy a property, or in this case, you wouldn't be executed the sale and purchase deed, so the transfer of ownership at that moment, because the property is still under construction. And for you to be able to do the public deed, you need to have the property fully built and the occupancy license of the property issued by the Public Works in Portugal. So if the property is under construction, what you will do is a promissory contract. So you promise to buy that property and to execute the deed once the property is completed. You can use that document, the promissory contract, to start your application. but you will have to pay at least the full price of the minimum amount of investment. So if you are buying, let's say, a 280,000 euros property, you can sign the promissory agreement, and as a deposit, you will have to put straight away the 280,000 euros so that you can start your application.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. There's just two final questions here, and obviously at that point, we will wrap up this presentation. So the question here: how long do I have to hold on to my investment for? So I've invested. I'm going through the process of the golden visa, and then ultimately the passport. When can I sell my investment?
Well, technically, you could sell your investment after the 5 years, because after the 5 years of holding, of having a golden visa, of having the pink card, you are entitled to start your citizenship or permanent residency application. Okay, so technically speaking, it would be after the 5 years. Normally, what I do with my clients, I suggest them to hold a little bit more the investment, so that when we start the application for the residency or the citizenship, that takes some time, they still have the golden visa active. If there is anything, it's just a backup plan that I strongly advise my clients, and it's a strategy that I've been following. So they normally hold the investment a little bit further than the 5 years. But technically speaking, it could be the 5 years. I just don't recommend to cut that at that moment, and to hold it a little bit more.
Yeah. Okay, fine. And then final question: do I need to learn Portuguese to become a citizen?
Oh, of course, you are very welcome to learn Portuguese, and you need to, because you need to show some sort of connection to the country, of course. And one of the elements of connection that is required for the citizenship and the residency is to learn elementary Portuguese. Okay, so there is some sort of effort that needs to be put on the Portuguese language for that. So, and this is a very good question, because it's important that this requirement exists. Okay.
Yeah, and just to sort of reassure attendees who suddenly their heart may have sank, and how complicated is this sort of testing. My understanding is that it is reasonably straightforward. I did hear someone say that if you could order a cup of coffee in Starbucks in Portuguese, you're kind of on your way to passing the necessary test, or is that keeping it too simplistic?
Well, I don't want to commit with any with this. It also depends on the knowledge capabilities of every investor on learning a language. Yeah. But I have to say that it's an elementary exam that, of course, for me as a Portuguese, it's very easy. But and I don't think it would be very difficult. Just to give you an example, a curious example, in our firm in Macau, mostly, and even in Portugal, we have Chinese lawyers that are Portuguese speakers, and that they took law graduation in Portugal, 5 years law graduation in Portugal, and they just came 1 year before the graduation started to learn Portuguese. So that's amazing. So if they can do that and take a law degree, the same that I took for the golden visa, I would say that it's not the same level, and it's possible. It's just some effort that needs to be done.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and absolutely, it should be a labour of love and something that everyone wants to do. To be respectful to living, working in Portugal. So I'm sure that all those who are looking to get the passport or the citizenship, etc., would be, delighted to oblige with learning the language, of course.
Yeah, this is it's mandatory, and it's one of the most important elements of connection with Portugal.
Totally agree. I think we will end the presentation at this point. There is still a lot of questions coming through. There are a number of tax questions, for example, Tirso, and I think those would perhaps maybe be more directed to yourself or other partners at MdME on a one-to-one basis, I feel. There are also other questions in terms of legal fees, in terms of costings for those, for your services, etc. And again, unless you think differently, Tirso, I feel that perhaps if attendees do drop me a line with those sort of questions, I can then introduce you to Tirso in terms of the quotations for legal fees, or indeed for specific other questions you have on the golden visa, on the citizenship passport, and also taxation, etc. I think that will probably be the best way to go. Would you agree?
Totally agree. So I'm completely open to follow that arrangement. Yes, I think it's more efficient.
Yeah, for sure. And I think just to sort of go back to the original outset of this presentation, I did mention that Tirso has kindly agreed for anyone who's serious for pursuing the golden visa. He will happily do a 15 to 20 minute free consultation over Zoom. He is based in Lisbon right now. He'll be back in Hong Kong, as I understand, in July. So I can make that introduction and happily set you on the path to that first step, and allow you into the wealth and breadth of experience that Tirso has over many years in the golden visa space. So that's really it this evening from Hong Kong, and obviously from Tirso in Lisbon. I do hope that's been very helpful for you all. We've covered some salient points and key questions for the main parts of golden visa. And as I say, there are a whole host of other questions which Tirso will happily answer on a one-to-one. Is there any sort of closing thoughts that you would like to add, Tirso, over and above what we've discussed today?
Well, no, not especially, just to thank you, and thank you also for the audience. That I can see that there's a lot of questions on the Q&A, a lot of interest. So thank you very much for the interest and for taking time to listen to me. And as you mentioned, I'm open for those who are seriously looking at the golden visa to further go into further details and to see on a case-by-case basis what is the best course of action for them, and that's it. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you so much, Tirso, for taking time out of your day over there in Lisbon today to field these questions and give a greater insight into the golden visa Portuguese passport opportunity. I think that's really helped all of the many attendees on this webinar. And as I say, there are plenty of questions still coming in, which genuinely shows there is very strong interest here. And of course, I will further direct those individuals to you as and when required. So all that remains for me to say again is, Tirso, thank you so much for attending today. Thank you, everybody, for attending the webinar. I do hope that has been very helpful for you all. Do keep your questions coming in. Do feel free to follow up with further comments. And if there are, as I say, further inquiries for Tirso, I will make sure that those introductions are done. So thank you very much for attending wherever you are. And I look forward to speaking to you again very soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening, a good day. Thank you.
Thank you, Tirso. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.